We heard overnight reports that apparently President Trump initially ordered a strike against Iran and then reportedly pulled back on that. That even as we're hearing that some airlines like United and Qantas are canceling flights. Yep. You address the question of a possible war with Iran in your book, and I want to quote exactly what you said. How might a war involving Iran break out? The two most likely causes would be Iran's taking a step too far in the support of proxy military forces, or Iran's interfering with freedom of navigation in the air or at sea in the Gulf region. So pretty freighted words right now, given the air and sea navigation in that area. As you look at the situation right now from what you know, how much more likely are we to be in a war with Iran today than we were 6 months ago?
It doesn't look like we're in a likely position with respect to intentional war, because President Trump has shown no inclination, and the Iranians have shown no inclination. The issue is unintentional war, as the book said. The Iranians taking a step that they don't realize is going too far. Now, what they've done so far is some interference, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then taking down an American drone is the transition from attacking shipping and somebody else's stuff to attacking our stuff. So it comes a little closer. So I'm more concerned about unintentional war. You know, our forces are really up against one another. We have tens of thousands of forces there in the Gulf, and it only takes a few minutes for something to develop very quickly. I was in office when 10 sailors mistakenly went into Iranian waters and were taken prisoner. And I can tell you, in those minutes, we were winding up. That's just the way we do things, particularly when our own forces are at risk. And fortunately, we were able to diffuse that crisis very quickly and get the sailors released. But you have two armed forces right up against each other. Now, I do know that if it's a dust-up between the United States and Iran, we'll win and they'll lose. I'm confident of that. We work real hard on that. But nobody wants that. Nobody could want that.
Take us inside the planning in the Pentagon and in the White House from your experience. We now have assets in the area. As you suggest, for the first time, U.S. military assets have been hit in that drone.
Yep.
Does President Trump have any choice, any alternative, but to have some action back in response to that?
I think it requires some sort of pushback, not necessarily a military one. He has repeatedly talked about economic and political retribution. He seems to want to confine it, that he doesn't need to, but that appears to be the way he is going now. And that's why I say intentional conflict is much less likely than unintentional conflict.
David and I spoke with retired Brigadier General Mark Himmitt yesterday, and we asked him sort of what would amp things up on the U.S. end. And here is one scenario that he laid out. Here's what he had to say.
The United States has significant military and cyber capabilities that they could put a significant hurt on the Iranian regime and its military capabilities. They may be strong at the proxy level, but we're very strong at the economic, the diplomatic, and the cyber level.
It's the first time that I've heard that specifically sort of the cyber floated in this kind of particular scenario. Can you lay out sort of what the Pentagon would think about that?
Well, that's part of we have plans for all of these things. Cyber is one of our response possibilities, one among many. I can't say much more than that, but he's absolutely right.
Do you think it would be, in your experience, what's the most effective when you're dealing with Iran? Is it going to be the old ways, which is brute force? Is it going to be back channels? Or is it going to be these new kind of ways like a cyber?
Well, we don't have much in the way of back channels, but we have both. Both options are available to the president, but again, he seems disinclined from the outside looking in to do that right now. So I'm much more worried about the forces coming into contact, and our guys will protect themselves, and that unintentional breakout of a conflict in the midst of what is a very confused situation. The Iranians are probably confused by our response, and we're not exactly sure what they're up to.